Hello, and welcome to Behind the Scenes of a Seven-Figure Coaching Business with me, Rob Burkhead.
And me, Ben Hughes. Over the past decade, we built Trinity Transformation to over 500 one-to-one online clients and 7 figures in annual revenue, and it's been a real rollercoaster journey. We've put together this podcast to reveal the inner workings of a 7-figure online fitness business, as it's something we wish we had access to along the way, and it would have really helped us to get there a lot faster, and so hopefully it'll help you too.
So in today's episode, we're going to reveal how we went from losing everything to hitting 7 figures within 5 years. So I don't know what you remember. I wanted to ask you this because I've got my own recollection of it. But what do you remember about the first few years? It's like when we started. So we're at uni, we're at Bath University together, doing an engineering degree. What's your recollection of what we were doing?
I remember we spent a lot of time in the gym. And a lot of time in our uni house, just sat on the sofa, working from probably 16 hours a day or something every day, pretty much. And I'm sure, did we work weekends as well at first? I'm sure we did.
Yeah, it's a bit of a blur to me. I remember that definitely every evening on the laptop was a thing for a long time. There was no real advice. I just remember we saw London Muscle on Twitter, I believe, selling these sort of PDF guides and deciding we wanted to. I remember thinking we should do that. I don't remember what our conversation was. Do you remember a conversation around that, or we just thought, let's do that?
No, I don't remember at all. I feel like did we? I think we did. We were doing Twitter, but not with much strategy. And then at some point, someone asked us could you put me together a plan, something like that. Don't remember who it was. And then we thought, yeah, we could probably do that. And then that was it. Started then trying to coach people and do move into the whole online fitness thing, which was fairly new back in whenever it was, 2013, 2014.
Yeah, and I remember thinking we didn't have the conversation to not be in-person personal trainers, but I think I remember thinking for myself, maybe you had the same thoughts, I don't want to do that because I don't want to do the really early mornings. I'm not that good with people. I just thought that's probably not really what I want to do. But we're good with computers and sort of technology. And I think there's a subconscious decision to leverage that.
I probably had some sort of unrealistic dream as well that I was going to, that I wouldn't be, if I work with people one-to-one, I wouldn't be able to sit on a beach on my laptop sipping margaritas. That was the dream, be the travel the world, hardly do any work, 4-hour work week type dream, I think, back then.
That's true. I totally forgot that because it's kind of shifted, hasn't it? It's not really what we're striving for anymore. But at the beginning, it was definitely be rich and travel, work on a Caribbean island or something ridiculous. I also remember we talked about the YouTube truck coming a lot. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
We used to talk about this truck coming onto our driveway. We'd really get into describing it, wouldn't we? It would be like a dumper truck with £1 million in cash. I don't know
I think this is when we were looking at Christian Guzman, people like that, who was they're on YouTube. And he was always, he had Ferraris and Lamborghinis. He had all these flash cars and stuff, and obviously was doing really well. And we were thinking, right, when we blow up on YouTube after we did some very terrible cooking videos, like a sort of Jamie Oliver style cooking show, which was absolutely dreadful. And we thought, that's gonna get us famous. And then when we're famous, the YouTube truck's gonna come. We'll get rich, buy Lamborghinis, and move to a Caribbean island.
Yeah, and it didn't quite work out like that, did it? But I remember that distinctly, following these people. Greg Plitt as well, another guy. He had his Range Rover and his really cool house in LA. We thought we'd also try to be cover models, I think, at one point, didn't we? That's another story for another day, the Nuff Nuff story. But I think what I want to make sure we cover, because there's so many different stories, is kind of what you think we did wrong, but also what you think we did right, because we did eventually have some success maybe a couple of years later, didn't we? So where should we start? What do you think led to that eventual success?
I think one of the things that led to that eventual success was we went to the Body Power event, the Body Power UK event, Watched a few. We went to kind of the sort of fitness business. I guess it was like a fitness business talks area.
Yeah.
Section.
It was
watched
pure
a few
luck.
Of these talks.
Wasn't it that was on? We didn't know, we weren't going for that, were we? We were going to meet like the Hodge twins and Greg Plitt.
Yeah, which we did. We met both of those. The Hodge twins were really cool, actually, in person, face to face. They're really like nice guys, generous with their time. But yeah, we saw those business talks. There was one by, what was the guy's name? Dan Meredith?
Yeah.
And then one by a guy called Paul Mort, who he then collected our email address at the end of the thing. We ended up on his mailing list and then eventually worked with him. And I think that was probably the first sort of business coaching or marketing coaching or whatever that we did, which then I guess set us on more of a trajectory of figuring out how do you actually market stuff, how do you actually sell a product, how do you put together offers and write sales copy and all of those type of things, which is a really good sort of base of skills that helped us to have a bit more success, I think.
Yeah, that was definitely pivotal, wasn't it? I remember listening to all his podcasts, ironically, walking around where we lived at the time. We just finished university. We were living in Sibson, which is a pretty dead-end place in the middle of nowhere. You were working at Triumph, actually, at the time, weren't you? So you had your engineering job. Were you contracted for a year to do that after university?
Yeah, the deal was I did my placement there at Triumph Motorcycles, and then they sponsored me through uni very kindly. The contract was I had to stay for a year after uni and go back and work there. So I was doing that job, and then we were living off one salary, basically scraping the barrel to make ends meet. And I remember because I think you suggested, maybe we should join Paul Mort's program, and I remember thinking it's really expensive at I think about £97 a month. We're like, I don't know if we can find that to fund it. But then that investment, like a lot of investments we've made in different coaches and mentors along the way, has paid off because it can shift you on a different path from not going towards just either trending towards the same or failure to then going towards more success or that sort of thing.
And I remember, just to rewind a little bit more, you made me an offer to quit my job. So I was at McLaren, the car company, by all rights, like the dream job that I thought I wanted before university, like work for a supercar company, a Formula One team. But I was not really enjoying it. We'd started this online thing. We didn't have a clue what we're doing. And you said to me, why don't you come and live with me? I'll pay you half my salary and we'll give it a go, basically. I don't think it was quite as eloquent as that. I think we kind of had some back and forths and I didn't know what to do. And I remember talking to my parents and saying like, oh, is this the right move? But I do remember commuting on the M25 motorway in my little Clio 182 Trophy, which was not a good daily car, stuck in traffic on like a Friday afternoon or something for like 2 hours. And this would happen every week. Like I get stuck on the M25 and just thinking like, if this is the rest of my life, and looking at the other people in the office and the conversations they were having, and they kind of seemed dead behind the eyes. And I just thought, yeah, I can't do this anymore. So anything's got to be better than the nothing, earning, I think it was about 900 quid a month each max. I remember getting my little allowance from you each month. And then we'd work 16 hours a day and we didn't have a clue what we were doing. I remember, I don't know what I was doing all day. You'd be at work and I was trying to get this business to work without any knowledge. And until we had that mentorship from Paul, just like I'd reply to everyone. We'd give so many people free advice. We were scared to charge much. I think our program was like £39 for 12 weeks, something like that, maybe 45 for the muscle plan. We had these different PDF plans. And then Paul helped us, as you said, to learn what marketing was, which was not common knowledge then, I don't think, in 2014 in the fitness industry. Like it was a fairly new thing. And then also, I think, turn it into sell a result, which is an obvious thing in now to a lot of people, rather than selling a PDF or whatever, and then turn that into like a membership. So we were charging £50 or £100 a month, I think. So still not a lot, but compared to charging £39 one-off for 12 weeks was still a massive change. And I believe, because you had this year contract and you were hell-bent on finishing, weren't you? You were going, you also probably felt a bit dead. How did you feel when you were at Triumph and I was at home working on this fitness business?
It was the thing with it. When I first worked there on the placement, it was actually really enjoyable. The team I was in, I really enjoyed that. It was a lot of kind of hands-on practical testing, that sort of thing. I was quite into it. But then after uni, because I guess when I worked there on placement year, so that was second year, I don't think we'd really we hadn't started any of the.
No, it started the year after.
We didn't. So the business wasn't really a thing. That wasn't even a concept. But then in between doing my placement year and then working there again, we'd had these 2 years where we were working on the business, and I think found that real passion for, like, you know, fitness, coaching people, running a business, figuring out, you know, oh, we could do our own thing. I've seen this other path we could take where we're gonna, you know, we could be our own bosses, we could run our own business. And then to go back to the 9 to 5 that I was doing before, suddenly it was like, oh, actually, now this is not the path that I want to be on. So then the second time working there, I was just, as you said, just felt like I was, you know, life was trending not towards where I wanted it to go for that full year. And I remember towards the end of that, when I was getting to the end of that year, I was very excited for the sort of the next stage where we were trying to figure out where could we live afterwards and actually afford to live with. I guess at that point we must have been making a little bit, enough to kind of pay to live somewhere. Actually, I don't know if we even were.
I think it was about $2,000 to $3,000 a month we were making. I have looked back at these numbers. So it was just enough. Business, it sounds mad that, like, we tried to live off that. That was the entire business, and we ended up having to pay ourselves pretty much everything that we had left.
Yeah. So we ended up thinking, right, where could we live? And I stumbled across some sort of blog about, like, digital nomads, which had, like, I think it was Nomad List, this thing, and you put in what budget can you afford to spend, and then it tells you all the cities. These are the cities in the world you can afford to live. So then somehow we landed on the idea of, let's move to Croatia for a bit, and because it's much cheaper than the UK. So we paid £400 for our Airbnb for a whole month in Croatia, so £200 each, and that was like our accommodation sorted.
Yeah, it was great. I kind of look back on it fondly now. I think it was pretty tough at the time because we didn't get to do as much exploring as we wanted because, again, we didn't have the business figured out. We were doing everything. But it was cool. We lived in the centre of Split, didn't we? I remember Vedran, the apartment owner, was like Borat.
Yeah, we had sea views out the windows. It was nice, really.
Yeah, it was cool. I think that we both miss certain aspects of being at home. Maybe that's a conversation for another day. But we still, I think, scraped by for a while because then we moved to Chamonix, didn't we? Because we also love skiing, and we thought we'll go and live that dream, like almost like the ski season. But from what I remember, we spent most of the time in Chamonix in the apartment working, sadly, not much skiing.
Yeah, there was no snow either. But I do have these good memories of being in Split, going down to the cafe on the seafront, F Marine it was called. And we go down, you spend 90 cents to get a coffee, and then just sit there with your 1.90 coffee in the sun, working, like watching all these like yachts going past. It was quite like, if you want to live somewhere for a very small amount of money and have a lot of sun and a pretty chill life, it's a good move. Go to Croatia or somewhere similar.
Yeah, I don't think it's as cheap as it was then. No, I think we really lucked in. I think even the month after we left, Vedran put the apartment up a lot because we were in such a good location. But it was a great experience. I think for some people that would be how they want to continue doing the nomad thing. You can definitely leverage that to your advantage, whether it's tax savings. Loads of people we know in the fitness industry live in Dubai, don't they? Because there's a tax saving, or better weather. And I think we would look at those yachts. I remember looking at them and thinking, like, one day. Still not got there yet. They were ridiculous. But I think we still struggled, though, for a while. So after Chamonix in Croatia, we had to move. I remember both of us had to move back home. This is one of many times, to our parents for a period of time. But I do think, I remember then brainstorming, coming to your parents' house in your kitchen with a big A3 pad of paper, and us like brainstorming, like, how do we sort this out? Like, we've got some business success, and we realized there was so much more. And we joined I just remembered this. You're probably thinking
in Chamonix. Yeah, I just remembered the same thing.
In Chamonix, we were following someone who Paul Mort, our first mentor we worked with, called Garrett J. White, and we could never afford his program. He had a 25 grand week-long experience called Warrior Week, which was supposed to like change your life completely. It's like a James Bond crossed with like Tony Robbins, sort of crazy experience. And it looked really, really cool. They had amazing cinematic videos of it. It was very mysterious. This guy was really inspiring. Had a BMW M5. We love cars, so that was also cool. And then we thought we want to be like this guy, but we can't afford his program. And then he dropped. It was an amazing marketing launch, wasn't it? We still think of it to this day. He dropped this video for this new thing called Black Box Brotherhood, and it was it $5,000?
$5,000, yeah.
Which to someone earning like £1,000 a month and barely, it's kind of a crazy move, wasn't it? But I remember lying in our twin bedroom in Chamonix. You were on one side, I was on the other side. I had my credit card in my hand, like shaking, like, Ben, I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do this. And you were like, okay, I'll do this. And I don't know what made us do it, but probably desperation. But
I think a lot of the things, thinking back now, all the things we did, from the, you know, sharing the one salary, moving to Croatia, it's all just like, it's kind of just doing what we had to do in order to kind of keep the dream alive. And it was quite a lot of sacrifice, you know, sacrificing careers, like both of our engineering careers, then sacrificing like living in the UK and being around all friends and family and stuff like that to move to another country. And then this next thing is like another big difficult decision where it's like, this is all, you know, we're gonna have to put our hand into our own savings now, because we obviously don't have enough money in the business to then make this investment, hoping that it's going to pay off and turn things around.
I think there was something in just the fact it was such a big amount of money to us at the time, that we had to figure it out then, because it would be embarrassing to tell anyone. I think it didn't work out. And to be fair, within 6 months, I think it took us a little while, didn't it? But within 6 months, we went from about $3,000 a month to $30,000 a month. And it was like this huge growth, wasn't it? And I don't know, let's have a quick summary, because we could go on, it could take a whole episode just to talk about that. But what do you think we changed and did right in that phase to go from like 3 to 30? Because I think it's quite interesting to kind of reflect on it.
I do remember, as you said, you came to my house with the big pad of paper, and we sat and brainstormed, and we kind of rebranded what we were doing. I guess we also at that point, I'm not sure if it was that point, but we decided to focus only on our female clients when we moved to doing Trinity Transformation, rather than previously it was called Train, Eat, Gain, which was kind of, we just coached absolutely everyone. We honed in more on our female clients and thought about, you know, sort of honed in our avatar, our like ideal customer to be the best, our favorite customers to work with, essentially. So it was like women around about, you know, in their 40s who are married with kids and et cetera, busy job. We kind of narrowed that down. And then I think that helped us to, I guess, attract more customers to, that's sort of the main thing. And then we lucked out as well with we happened to create a program which was a really good follow-on for people who had just finished doing the body coach program, when there wasn't like a follow-on program for that. And then Angela, I guess, also helped us massively at that point as well.
Yeah, so a load of things kind of came together, didn't they? So we'd done this Warrior program, which taught us a number of business things, which were really helpful. And then we had this influencer who, I guess she, again, at the time you wouldn't have called it influencer, but I guess she was, who had this big Facebook group, and she'd lost a lot of weight. She'd done Joe Wicks's program. Loads of people were doing Joe Wicks's program at the time, but there was nothing after the 12 weeks, and people were given these macros and they didn't know what to do with them. And we told people what to do with them. So it kind of, we thought we were kind of God's gift a little bit, I think. When we started making $30,000 a month business-wise, you're laughing because I think it's true. And then, but we had all of this, it was like this perfect storm that worked in our favor. And we had all these people coming from the Body Coach program, all of Angela's followers. She had like 15,000 super close followers, which is a great lesson as well of, you know, you don't need a hundreds of thousands of people audience. Like she probably filled half of our business just through posting for 12 weeks about our program. And then, we suddenly went to like 30K a month. And I think we very, very quickly got ahead of us because we'd never had any success before. I remember, it's so cringe even talking about it. I remember going to Porsche Reading with you.
I remember that, yeah.
and like sitting at the desk thinking like I'm Billy Big Balls now, talking to the salesman, like which Porsche should I get? Luckily we didn't do it because we were about to finance, like we didn't actually have the cash because we'd only made a little bit of money. Finance like was it 50, 60 grand Boxster? Something luckily made us not do that. But we did move to Bath, didn't we? So we then moved to Bath and got this really nice penthouse flat, which again was like more than we had even been earning total together a month between us. And I remember I had 2 floors in my bedroom. You had some crazy bath, didn't you?
I had a huge, like massive bathtub you could basically like swim around in, like a jacuzzi pool.
So we had this crazy flat, bifold doors across the entire side as well. Like it all fed into the ego and we thought we'd made it. And we got crazy busy. So it did work out. I think we had 500 online clients. We weren't doing phone calls at this stage. So I think that did save us, but we had 500 clients, terrible retention. Like we didn't even know what retention meant. We just knew how to sell at this point. Like Paul had taught us how to market, and Garrett and Warrior a little bit how to sell. They're not on the phone. And I think because it was quite cheap, wasn't it? Was it 150 or 300 pounds, that program? I think it was the upgrade was
around about there. It wasn't a huge amount, and for that amount as well, we gave people lots of coaching and lots of help and support. So it was a good deal back then, back in the day.
For them, and not, I remember a few issues I had was like trying to keep up with this crazy growth. I remember my dad was driving me and my sister to see my grandma, who was sadly dying or going to heart surgery. I can't remember which phase of, her kind of decline that was. But I remember being in his car in the passenger seat, having to have my headphones on, my laptop on my lap, because we had no team, and doing like 250 check-ins or something absolutely insane on my laptop. And I got RSI in my hand. I had to go and get like forearm massages to try and deal with it. It seems crazy that it got this far, but I guess we were just enjoying having some success, I think, as well. And we weren't really ready for what would go horribly wrong. So I guess let's talk about what happened next. What do you remember we then did? Because obviously we were overworked. We had some financial success, but we then cocked a lot of things up. So what kind of things did we then do?
We had that financial success, and then we then decided to get an office in Bath as well. So not only did we have a very nice penthouse flat, we then also had basically a second rent bill to pay just for like an office right in the center of town, which was a very small office actually for the amount it cost, with like weird sloping floors and low ceilings. And then we bought 2 coaches on board. So we had our 2 team members, which then that helped kind of relieve the burden of coaching, because coaching's not that coaching's unenjoyable, but doing 250 check-ins,
that was a burden.
Is then a burden. It becomes a burden at a certain point when you're trying to take on too much. And not only does it become a burden for you, but also the quality of the coaching that you then give to your clients really drops off, hence our retention at that point being not good. But so we had this office, we had the team, we had all of these outgoings. We suddenly had all of these outgoings. I can't remember if as well, I think at the same time we were also spending quite a lot on advertising. But one mistake we'd made is we were spending all this money on advertising. We thought that the money we were spending on advertising was what was leading to our success in terms of the number of clients we were getting, because we weren't tracking anything, we weren't measuring anything properly. The reality is we were spending loads of money on advertising, and all of our success was due to this, Body Coach follow-on thing and Angela promoting our thing, whereas we thought we're amazing, we're the world's best marketers, look at us investing in all these ads and getting all of these clients. So then suddenly that temporary thing of success that we had faded away. So the clients were not coming in. We still had the big advertising spend. We had the team. We had the office. Suddenly we've got all of these outgoings, and we just didn't have the money coming in. And then to make things even more difficult at that stage, then suddenly this massive bill arrives for tax. Was it corporation tax or VAT or both? I can't remember.
It was both. I mean, I was sadly the one handling the finances not very well at this point. Thought we knew what we were doing, and we got a £27,000 corporation tax bill, and similar, I think it was a bit more, VAT bill. And I'd thought mistakenly that VAT was this is such a basic error, but it was done on profits. So the money that was left, and we were paying ourselves most of the money. So there wasn't much money left. So I thought, oh, we just need like 2 or 3 grand a month will cover the VAT. And it was more like 10 grand a month that we needed for the VAT. So I'd sort of saved the money for the VAT, but there was nowhere near enough. And because we were, as you said, we was paying 2 staff full time, we were paying another person to manage our community way more than they should have been paid as well. We probably had loads of other costs. I can't even remember. We had to cull so many costs, but we had so many things we were paying over the odds for because we just hadn't paid attention. We had a recording studio in the office that we built. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
With multiple camera angles. You know, we'd spent so much. We bought like brand new stuff for the office. Well. We paid for a
production company come in and make a film about our lives.
That was like 8 grand or something. So we'd spent so much money, and we'd had nothing to pay these tax bills.
But not only that, like, you know, would have been that we potentially could have like paid some of the money we'd paid ourselves back into the business, but we'd also paid ourselves all the money and then spent all the money on like holidays, cars, just like frittered it away on stuff as if like, as you said, we thought we were, you know, God's gift to business. The money's never going to stop coming in sort of attitude when like these days, I think it was good though to go through that experience because like how conservative I am with money now is so much better, like actually saving, putting money aside, planning for the future, which is all, I guess it's just what stuff you learn when you get older / all, you know, completely run out of money.
I think for me, I have to make the mistakes, but I'm hoping people listening can kind of learn from these and not make them. I don't think everyone's as foolish as us, but to give context, like there were multiple months where we earned 10 grand a month, which I've never earned before. To give full transparency, never earned it since either, because we're way more conservative with saving within the business. You know, we were earning so much more than we had done, like 10 times more. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were 27, I think. I bought a BMW that was pretty much brand new. And I had that Clio Trophy still. And I was doing track days in that. And I had a garage I was renting to store my cars because I had too many. What did you go and buy? You bought loads of cars.
I had all sorts of Toyota GT86. I bought a Mini. That was it. Like a new sort of newish Mini Countryman, which lasted 24 hours before I then wrote it off, which is disappointing. But in the grand scheme of things, actually, it was probably best to write that car off because it was not great.
I didn't miss that, but I do remember picking you up and the car being in the hedge. And you went on some crazy holidays as well. You went to Japan. Where else did you go?
2 weeks to Japan. I went to like Budapest. I went
Australia.
All sorts of places. I think probably every month for like a long period of time. I was on at least a week, if not 2 weeks holiday, but kind of like working holiday. But I mean, the reality is, you know, now we don't travel as much. We spend a lot more time at home. The reality is if you want to run a successful business, you can't. Well, I don't know, maybe some people can, but personally, I find if I'm just always on planes and traveling, you can't be productive enough to actually make it work, I don't think. But
especially not when it was going
that's
wrong.
What I was trying to do. Yeah.
I think the biggest error one big error we made is not cutting our losses quickly enough. So I don't think we could come to terms with the fact it was all falling apart. I don't think we realized how bad it was.
Yeah.
So we reduced our staff's hours, didn't we? I remember, and because we ended up building all these clients so quick, we kind of needed them, but we didn't have the money to pay for it. So it was all a bit of a disaster. I remember having to come up with a payment plan with HMRC to pay our debts because we couldn't afford it. So we had a 3 grand a month bill going to HMRC. And very quickly, the amount we were earning went from like 30, we had like a 50 something K month, went back down to like 30, 25, 20, 15. We slowly were having to like fire the team, weren't we? And then I remember there was a month, we went 9 months without being paid. And there was a month where we earned 0. We had 0 in the bank account. It was like, it sounds like one of these fake stories, but I remember walking around Kennington Park. I then moved to London, opening my TSB app to look at TSB. We'd moved to TSB because they gave you 2 grand to move and we needed the money. And it was just 0. It was like 0.16 or something, like there was nothing in there. And I was like, oh. And I was still having to speak to clients that we'd like had contracts with. I remember I was in the park because I was speaking to Sue, one of our clients who's done really well since actually. And it was a really tough time. Like, how did you feel going through all of this? Like, I know I really struggled.
I think it was bad for a while, but then I think you get to a certain point where it's gone so badly wrong, and it's like, well, I've got nothing left to lose at this point. And then when you get to that point, when you finally hit the bottom point, I think then you kind of accept it and go, right, well, I guess, you know, maybe it fails, maybe we figure it out, but either way, it is what it is. But what was I going to, there's something I thought of then I've forgotten. No, can't remember it. But the way we kind of, one thing we had to do to get through it was to find other work to sort of sustain us, because obviously we weren't paying ourselves anything through the business. So I got a job, which actually I look back really fondly on, but I got a job at Domino's Pizza, just delivering pizza, because I had a Clio Sport that I actually quite enjoyed driving. So this job was quite fun, because I'd basically turn up to my shift at Domino's Pizza. It's maybe 6 hours. You just drive around the town at 6 hours like a boy racer, and I was listening to business podcasts, listening to like audiobooks, just trying to find something, trying to figure something out of like, how can we turn this around, how can we make this actually work and kind of build this back up again.
So I think you were in like a positive space. I think I was wallowing even worse, because I think everything fell apart for me. I think you'd met Sarah, so this is your wife now, right? And you were kind of on a good trajectory. My relationship throughout the business falling apart also fell apart. So I was with someone for 7 years. They ended up leaving me, well, actually cheating on me with an investment banker who was really rich. So that made me feel really bad when I was earning nothing and they were absolutely loaded. I had to move back home with my parents again. And that was rough. But I do then remember the next, and I also had to get another job. So I had this, like, I think you saw it, this like Matrix style computer setup. So I was teaching children who I actually like being fun with children, playing like with my cousins and stuff, but teaching them is not a skill I have. And I was teaching like these children how to do computer programming from home, through like a contact I had. I had 10 screens and I'd have to spend my entire Saturday sat at this like 20 something inch screen display, like Matrix system, just bored out of my mind trying to encourage these children to learn stuff they didn't want to have to learn because their parents wanted them to do it. And I absolutely hated it. It was such bad money. Like, I think Domino's, should have done Domino's, but I was in London and it wasn't a good idea for me. I didn't have the car to drive around and do Domino's. So it was a really tough time, but I do remember struggling with that, but we were still determined. I think that's the one like positive is like, we did not want to go back to full-time work. I know you attempted, I think you had an interview, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to, I had an interview with JCB to become some sort of engineer of some sort, which was like, it was to go from zero to like maybe 30 something thousand a year, like 35,000 or something. And I went through all the interview process, did like a couple of rounds of interviews, and they turned around and said, actually, we'd like to offer you the job. And then this is another one of those difficult decision points where I thought, do you know what? Actually, I've got to, rather than just go for the money, instant, easy, guaranteed money, I've got to go with my heart and think, well, what do I actually want? I wanted to succeed still wanted to succeed in that business. Didn't want to give up on it yet. I could still see that. I think because we'd had that taste of success, we knew it could work. And when it was working, it was great. We had freedom, we had money, it was enjoyable work, really fulfilling work, coaching people as well. And so I was like, what I really want to do is build it back to that point, move out of my parents' house again, stop working at Domino's, not get another full-time job that I'd have to commute an hour to and like there and back every day and sit at a desk doing engineering, which it's not my favorite. So then we decided to rebuild it, which I honestly, now thinking about it, I don't actually remember what we did or how we even did that to build it back up from that point. It's a bit of a blur.
I have a few memories. So I think one thing that helped us get through this as well, because this was a really dark time, was just having each other there. Like, so if one of us was losing the faith, like you were going, oh, maybe I'll take this full-time job, the other one would be like, no, we're going to do the business and remember how good it was and we'll get there. And I don't know how people do it on their own, like business people on their own must be really, really tough, because we can at least talk to each other behind the scenes and go, this is awful, I'm struggling, or like, what should we do? And we figured things out. And I think, again, another thing that turned us around though was we got another mentor. It was a very good deal. So it was a guy called Johnny, and it was a great deal in that we didn't have to pay anything until we made money. It was a very good offer. I respect the offer. And it was, if what he helped us with starts making money, then we pay him a small cut of it. Or it wasn't that small actually, because eventually we had to end that relationship because it was too big a cut because we started doing too well. But he helped us to figure out an offer, which is something we'd never been taught. We'd been taught like marketing, hadn't we? And like copywriting and like how to create frameworks within the program, but we'd never been taught how to create an offer that sells. And I know, for example, Alex Hormozi has written a whole book on it. I still don't think it's done as well as Johnny taught us though. So I know you were fundamental in doing this. So what do you remember about creating that offer from where we were, from what our offer was that wasn't working to the offer that was working?
So yeah, I think the offer we had before, it's a mistakes that a lot of people fall into, and also things that every mentor we'd ever had told us was really important, which was, firstly, you've really got to find a niche, like a really specific person. Even though we were saying, right, women in their 40s, busy job, it still wasn't specific enough. And specifically, it wasn't specific enough in terms of the actual problem that the person is having. It's not so much just finding. I think Johnny had something. I think it was 3 Ps, and it was like person, problem, something.
Paradise, maybe.
It was that problem that was the thing. So the problem that we decided, right, this is what we can really solve. This is what we can really do well at, because we'd already had success with this, was helping women over 40, helping women around menopause whose hormones were changing. We had we'd had a great success helping these women to turn it around and see amazing results in terms of their fitness. So we decided that's what we're going to focus on, over 40 women around menopause. So the first step was finding that niche, and which is actually now, interestingly, is actually quite a busy space. Like lots of people have moved into that now, but at the time it was very sort of rare, especially for 2 guys like me and you to go into that. And then it was creating an offer that the key things were it specifically helped that person achieve their dream result, which is, they're losing the weight, getting into their favorite clothes, feeling amazing in all their clothes, all of that. But also then fleshing that out and figuring out how can we, why will this work better than everything else out there? Why should they choose this over personal training? What makes this different to other online programs out there? Why is this better than your kind of cheap and cheerful Weight Watchers? Why is this program going to work when everything previously has failed? So it's just creating an offer that's so solid that just kind of removes all the doubt and all of the worries and all of the uncertainty around the person taking the offer. So that and the other thing Johnny did was he really taught us how to do sales over the phone. So previously all we'd done is, we had an email list with quite a lot of people in it, and we had social media, and we just say, here's a program, here's a link, go and buy it if you want. But now we changed to, this is our program, you need to apply, which is another game changer, because when people apply, you can, again, filter out more to the exact person that you want to work with, who you know is going to be committed, is going to be driven. Therefore, they're going to be you can have a better relationship with them as a client. And they're going to see better results, which obviously, if people see better results, that's really good for retention and getting repeat customers. So we moved to this process where people applied, we then booked a call with them, and then Johnny really helped us create a great sales script that was paired together with that great offer, so that we could really kind of increase what we were charging and also increase the quality of what we were delivering at the same time. And all of that together, that really kind of, I think that was a real turning point, I think.
Yeah, I think that set us up for success. And I remember Johnny pushing back a lot, and we'd be like, here's our offer. And we'd think like, right, now we've got the offer. And he'd come back and be like, this is still nowhere near good enough. You need to kind of change this, redo it again. And now I think, I'm sure you're the same. You see other people's offers and you'll go, this is nowhere near strong enough. And it'll be the reason why they can't get to the next level in their business. Like through sheer brute force, we did okay. But when we nailed the offer, it just took off. And I've got the figures here. So 2019, which was half of the year, we made zero, or got down to zero in the bank account. So not zero, but very small amounts of money each month, a couple of thousand, 5,000. I think the lowest was 5,000. It went like 12, 9, 6, 5, 4 maybe in March. And then from March to June, we went back up to 30 grand a month just by nailing the offer and putting that offer out there. And that year we made 181,000. 2019, even though half of the year we did terribly. So that just shows the power of the offer. And then 2020, we did 291, so nearly 300,000. 21, we did 417. 22, we did 699, bit annoying. Didn't quite hit 700, but 700. And then 2023 did 1,006,000 in revenue. And I think that all started there with learning those two things. So the offer and then the sales over the phone, which again, I think a lot of people are winging. We were taught to make it very process orientated. And then that meant we could very quickly hire a salesperson as well. So we hired Yaz in, I think it was, do you remember what month that was? I think it was December 2019.
It was that. And then after about, he'd worked there for December, January, February, like two and a half months or something. Then it was the first COVID lockdown. So we ended up furloughing Yaz for about a month or so. And then we thought, you know what? We don't want to just pause the business. We just thought, let's just try and make this work. So we unfurloughed Yaz. Don't know if that's an official word. And then we just kept pushing and found that this was another good thing we came into, that because we were already doing online fitness, we'd already made that decision like 5 years previously that we wanted to be online only, that our program that we're providing to people was something they could still do during all of the COVID lockdowns and everything like that, especially because they had loads of free time as well. So that worked really, really nicely.
I think there was a lot of competition at that time because everything went online. Gyms went online. Loads of coaches decided to start being online coaches in lockdown. So the fact we still had good growth, like 40, 50% a year, I think was, just showed we kind of learned how to do things properly for the first time this time. So we hired more steadily. We hired in a completely different way as well. So then we started hiring coaches, didn't we? In 2021, so we hired 2 coaches. I went back through and checked this. We started outsourcing some of our social media creation as well. But we did it a completely different way. So instead of hiring, when it all fell apart, we hired 2 coaches full time. I think you remember Sam and Kirsten were on 20 grand a year back in 2016 or 17, which was quite a lot of money then and we only made them work 6 hours. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
We thought, what would we want? Which is a terrible way, by the way, to think about what you should give your employees, like to a certain point, because we said, we only want to work a few hours a day, so we'll just get them to work a few hours a day. And we don't want to have to go into the office much, so they only have to go in when they want. And we messed a lot of things up with that. But the second time we hired coaches gradually, whenever we hit another sort of number of clients where that coach was full, then we added in another coach or 2. And we then went up to 538, I think was the peak clients. We now have 5 coaches. We have a manager, Dave, who's fantastic, who looks after those coaches. They're great coaches as well. And throughout those years, we really learned how to hire, I think, a lot better. We've really refined our process so we can hire great people, but without having to pay a crazy amount up front. So we now pay people on an hourly rate to begin with, and then they move towards full-time. And now we have some full-time coaches and some part-time coaches. And that means you have way more business stability. So I think knowing that you know how to replace people if they leave as well is a really important skill. Like Laura's on maternity leave at the moment. So there's a lot going on. I think it's quite different, isn't it? What do you think is the key though? Because a lot of people I speak to, at least in the coaching world, they all want to hit kind of 7 figures, £1 million a year, that milestone that we've now hit. Bar the niche, we've kind of talked about that niche and the offer. What else do you think was key to getting there?
Yeah, so I think that there's an initial phase you've got to go through where you nail that offer. You figure out, how do I actually bring on clients? You've also got to figure out, how am I going to fulfill for these clients? So we brought those, you bring on your first couple of coaches. Our coaches are really good. They do a better job of coaching the clients than we do. So then we've got happy clients. We've got clients coming in. Those clients are happy. They want to stay for a long period of time. They get really good results. So once you've got that sort of stable thing of clients coming through the door, clients are very happy with the program, they're seeing great results. Once you've got that, it is kind of then just adding more and more. So it's just as you add, getting more calls booked in for the salesperson to do, get another salesperson, so that you're then bringing more people on board. You're having more coaches to coach those people. And to a certain extent, it's then just like add another coach, add another salesperson, add another coach, and that scaling it up from that stage it's kind of just doing a bit more of the same thing until you then kind of get to there'll then be another point where I imagine it sort of plateaus off, and then you've got to think, right, now it's time. Now we're going to have to switch and do things slightly differently again. So, for example, we've recently brought on a someone to help with the marketing and the social media side of things, and it's that's kind of a slightly different step that we're taking now compared to previously, which was just add salespeople, add coaches, essentially.
I think it's getting out of the way, which is quite a big mindset thing you struggle with. I think you can get, I don't know, I think you can, maybe it's an ego thing, think no one else can do this as well as I can. Like you were saying, actually, we've learned that coaches can coach better than us, especially when it's their only job. Because we used to have to, I remember when we started growing, we would be doing all the sales calls, me and you, wouldn't we? I remember being in my parents' garden. This was when I just moved back home for the last time. And doing 7 or 8 phone calls a day, like 45-minute long phone calls, back to back to back. Phone call, get rejected, phone call, get rejected, phone call, get a sale. Okay, great, get a sale, message you, being like, yeah, I got a sale, get another sale. But then we had to try and coach these people, and we couldn't do a great job of both because we were busy selling all day. And then once we got enough clients, then we were busy coaching all day. And then we, over time, kind of handed the reins over to other people to do those things slowly but surely. And there's loads of boring stuff we won't get into today about like having the right processes and onboardings and documenting everything and using forms so that they do it the same way every time. There's a lot of intricate details that I think actually are really useful for people to know. And we've learned, again, through a load of different things. We worked with Expert Empires, didn't we? Another great mentor, so Nick James and his team. And we learned how they take clients through their customer journey and realize, okay, we need to do this better. Apologies if you hear the dog barking. And so we learned kind of how to then improve retention that way. So we now keep people for, well over a year, 2-3 years is their kind of aim. Whereas at the beginning, it was much more short term. So is there anything else? I don't know what that is. Some sort of delivery.
It's the YouTube truck just coming down.
It's the YouTube truck with the money, finally. No, I think it's the dog's raw food, weirdly. But they know to leave it by the garage, so they should leave it by the garage.
It's the food. But I think another thing is as a business owner as well. So at the start, you are kind of everything. You're the salesperson, you're the coach, you're all of it. You do develop all those skills and you get good at all of those skills. As you said, you bring people on, then you have to learn to kind of get out of their way. But at the same time, you've also got to learn a new skill set of, now you've got this team and now you're a manager, and it's how do you get the team bought into the vision? How do you get them excited about the work that they're going to do? How do you give them targets and help them to deliver on those targets? How do you make sure that the role is fulfilling for them? Make sure that they're happy, make sure that they're going to stick around, and that they're having good job satisfaction. How do you, if they're slightly underperforming, how do you handle that in a positive way? So I think that was also another thing that in that transition was just learning how to better manage people, how to communicate as a team, especially as a remote team as well. I think managing people when you're there with them is probably, I would imagine it's easier to manage someone who you can physically see what they're up to all day, compared to managing someone remotely where you only interact with them face to face twice a year, probably for most of our staff members.
Yeah, and we see them in person twice a year. So we have events. We're going to the Gymkhana Michelin star restaurant in a couple of months. That'll be our first one. And then we've got another Michelin star restaurant in the summer. But I think it's important then for people, because I never wanted to be a manager. I think it's important for them to know then, what does life look like now? We're at this hallowed 7 figures, which is, obviously there's great things to it, but what does it actually look like in terms of operating the business at this level? Because I think, like you said, at 100, 200, maybe 300K a year, depending on how efficient you are, you don't really have much of a team. You're not really doing too much management. It's kind of all on you, maybe you and one person or you and an assistant. The next step is all team, from 300 to K-ish to $1 million. As you said, it's all about hiring the team, empowering the team, learning to manage the team. What does so to give context, Ben is in charge of sales and marketing, and then I'm in charge of kind of operations. So to give context, what does that kind of role look like now in terms of hours worked and like what you're doing day to day?
So hours worked. These days, I probably try and spend about 4 to 5 hours of like actual computer work. I find that if I'm going to be more efficient for a shorter period of time, actually, no, I wouldn't. A lot of the things I wouldn't count in that, like this meetings and stuff. I'd say a lot more meetings now, a lot more Zoom meetings. Yeah. So on the Monday morning, we've got the, our sales team meeting, which then transitions into a marketing meeting. And then that transitions into a meeting between me and Rob. Then later on today, I've got one-to-one meetings just with our sales team, just to catch up with them and see how they're getting on. Friday afternoon, I have a longer meeting with our marketing manager as well. So more meetings in the diary. But I mean, you as a business owner, you've always got that flexibility. You know, you can do as little or as much meetings as you want. You can put them in the day when you want them. But then also, I'd say these days, I spend more time doing stuff that I really enjoy doing. Like, I think both of us have kind of kept more of the stuff that we really enjoy doing. So the marketing side of things, doing more sort of content creation, so making social media content, writing email content, that sort of thing. And less of the stuff, not that we don't enjoy doing, but we've hired people to do it. So, you know, doing less coaching because we've hired people to do the coaching, doing a lot less sales because we've hired people to do sales, doing a lot less admin because we've hired people to help us with admin. So there's more there's more time available to come up with new ideas, work on the kind of creative stuff, work on the development of the business and, you know, thinking, where do we want to be next year? Where do we want to be the year after that? How are we going to get there? A lot of stuff that a lot of people probably find very boring, but I actually quite enjoy, like looking through spreadsheets of all of our marketing and sales and lead data and trying to find trends and figure out, you know, which marketing channels are going to be the most successful, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, that you're doing the things you enjoy doing, because some people might not enjoy that. Some people will enjoy it more. And I'm doing, very similar. So I've got the whole coaching team underneath me, 6 people, but I have Dave, who's the coaching team leader now, who manages most of that stuff. So he has all of the monthly one-to-ones with the coaches, because personally with 6 people, that's just something I wouldn't be great at doing or like doing. I know that's not my strength either. So getting out of the way of things that are kind of a weakness. And then he feeds back to me what the kind of like overall consensus is, any major issues, anyone leaving, or any changes we need to do there. And then I can spend more time on kind of like overall program development, to going, okay, this part isn't working so well, let's try and change this, or let's try and add another year to extend the customer journey, and all this kind of overall strategy stuff. And then, like you said, also working together on marketing, putting out content, because we like doing that. So it's definitely just more time on the things we enjoy. I'm currently tracking my hours worked on the computer, and it is somewhere between 4 and 6 on a long day. So it's a lot better than it used to be when we were doing 16 hours a day for no money back in those Sibson days. And I'm aiming to kind of trying to get that down a little bit more so I can focus on other projects as well. So I think if you do it right at that 7-figure level, you have a lot more flexibility. And like you said, I think I also try and have at least one day a week with no meetings, or at least no meetings that are kind of like regular team meetings. They're just ones that I put in if I want to do some networking or meet up with another business owner and things like that. So a day for me to kind of think bigger and work on strategy and things like that. And I think, do you have a couple of days like that as well?
Yeah, my my Friday afternoon is pretty flexible, and then Wednesday as well. And then I keep most of my afternoons flexible because I do a lot of rock climbing, and I like the outdoors as well. So if I look out and I see the weather's good, and I think, well, I can just like smash my workout now, go out for a walk, go out for a climb, come back and do some work later. I use a lot of that flexibility, which I guess is just a good thing about having an online business. But a good point you made, Rob, is like the way we've grown our business and the order that we've grown as in. So, outsourcing sales and outsourcing coaching might not be the right order to do it for another business as well. So, for example, one of the things that both you and I still do is a lot of kind of technical stuff. So in terms of setting up automations and all of that stuff that a lot of people, like building websites, web design, a lot of business owners might not have great skills in that, but because we've got the engineering background, setting up all of that stuff for us is pretty straightforward. It's very easy, and I still enjoy it. I enjoy setting up the complicated automations and all of that stuff, of which there is an absolutely huge amount with a team of, how many have we got? 12, 13 people. That a lot of automation and stuff has to happen in the background to make everything work in terms of an online business with 500 plus clients. But yeah, so for another business owner, it might be that is a real weak point for them, and therefore, but they're really good at sales and they are really good at coaching. So then they might outsource the web design and that kind of technical admin side of things earlier than we would outsource it. It's probably one of those things that at some point we will outsource that whenever the right time comes. But yeah, I think every business is different, and I remember with when we were with Expert Empires, when we were working with them in their program, we would have this monthly one-to-one meeting with one of their sort of head of marketing. And I think that was the most valuable part of that, because we had this hour-long meeting every quarter. No, was it every month or every quarter? It was
every 2 months, I think, wasn't it? Something like that.
Every 2 months. But he had a real kind of in-depth understanding of how our business works, and therefore wasn't just giving us generic advice like, we've done this, therefore you should do this. It was more like, well, in your business, for example, they were doing a lot of Facebook ads, we were doing a lot of YouTube ads. They were like, okay, well, let's look at what's working for you. You're doing really good on YouTube ads, therefore just double down on that thing. So it was telling us to basically keep doing what was right for us and what worked for us, and that was valuable as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's having that in-depth understanding. And I think that's what led us to one of the things that led us to tank it the first time was we did actually have a mentor, another one, through eMyth, a great book by Michael Gerber. But the mentor didn't really take the time to understand us or the business, I don't think, to the depth that was necessary. So they didn't know we were messing it all up. They didn't know we were wasting money on silly things until it was too late. And it was a very painful thing that maybe could have been avoided. I think it was useful for us to learn a lot of valuable lessons about what not to do. But it probably doesn't need to be that painful and that catastrophic to lose literally everything. We had to move out from Bath. We had to move back home, had to sell our cars. My entire relationship fell apart. 18 months, 9 months of not earning anything, 18 months of earning very little. Thankfully, we're in a much better place, as I said now. And the last 5 years have been all progress and all growth. But I think hopefully today, we've got loads more we want to share, but hopefully today was kind of helpful because we've got a lot more stories that we've had along the way, both from our successes and from many of the failures we've had. But if you found today helpful, the only thing I want to kind of say if you're listening is please share this with someone else. Share it with another coach or another business owner who could benefit from learning something from this, because this is the kind of thing we really would have liked to be able to hear more of growing our business. But I didn't know of any 7-figure fitness businesses as we were growing it. I didn't know what they were doing or not doing. So look, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next week for another episode. We're going to do these every week, so we shall see you then.